to Sancho Live as I'm rattling my microphone. Sorry, everybody. Big hello to the chat. Hello, Johnny D, Carlos, Richard, Murph. How are you? Big El Sancho, warm welcome to Tanya Hathaway. Tanya, welcome to the show.
Hi, everybody.
We are here to cover advocacy. We talk a lot about advocacy on this channel. We talk a lot about results. A lot of advocacy, it's harder to attain results. And this individual is an advocate who has been pushing for justice in Oklahoma. I want to give you a chance, Tanya, to kind of give a little overview of what your passion is right now when it comes to Oklahoma.
Okay, well, right now, it's been what it has been for probably like the last 6 years, although I've been an advocate most of my adult life. That translated into going much broader, much deeper, and of course much more dangerous when some incidents occurred in Oklahoma, and I've never been there, lived there, or whatever. Or I've been there, I have been there, but I never lived there. But I had my own story, which pales in comparison to many. And it just so happens that mine became like a little bit public, and people started reaching out to me saying, oh, that same judge or that same lawyer or that same this and that. Come to find out, there's like major judicial RICO going on in the same courthouse that I was in, and almost born by somebody that included somebody who was an attorney at the time who was appointed as a special judge because, basically complied with the district judge, like the oversight judge. And things just like it. So it started as family court to like probate to all of a sudden, you're finding out, there's all these common grounds with certain counties, with a prosecutor, with certain district courts, with judges. And then, so it just migrated throughout the spectrum of public corruption, Sancho, from CPS to DHS. And I'm not saying every agency and every person, every prosecutor, every judge, every defense attorney, or every public defender, or every police officer for that matter is guilty of malfeasance and public corruption. But it is so systematic in Oklahoma that you have a hard time not turning the corner and running into it. So I'm dealing with wrongful convictions as of lately.
Are you able to give us a little bit of a resume of your advocacy work, A, and B, there's a lot of states in the country. Why Oklahoma?
Well, again, it was something that was related to me. And that's usually we become engaged in this, people like me, right? Become engaged in this kind of whistleblowing and advocacy work, journalism, radio shows, because something personally happened to you or something touched your life, somebody close to you. And that's what happened to me. And it brought me personally to my knees. I lost everything that I had except for my integrity and my beautiful family, my sons. Okay. And still, that's nothing compared to what so many others are losing, have lost. And the key is to recovering it before all is lost and stopping that propelling of the continued corruption. And I call it corruption. People say, do this easily. You got to do this easily. You can't use that word so easily. I can easily use that word when it's not an error, because if there's an error, then that can be quickly remedied once it's brought to somebody's attention. And when it is, and it is suffocated, and the narrative is turned around to make you look like a lunatic. We've seen this happening, right? We see this now, throughout, the political stage, if you will. So it was something that happened to me. And when I started hearing from other people, oh my gosh, I know what you're talking about, that same person, Tanya, you don't live in Oklahoma, so, and I never did. So why, can you be that voice from the outside? Because lawyers are going missing, literally, because there's not a lawyer that will take the case, or if they do, they'll rip you off and they'll make your matter worse. Or also because, the goons won't show up and murder me quite as easily as it would others. And that might sound extreme, but it's not. And I'll try to keep, that like a little bit low key, because it just could sound not credible, but it is.
Right.
And
so
when things started coming across my desk, like
right.
about a year into it, I was crumbling. I was literally like crumbling, having anxiety attacks. I had to go to court in Oklahoma a number of times, wound up in the hospital. I was so abused. I have pages of complaints that went nowhere with verifications of everything, right? So then there was a particular matter that came across to me, and this woman said, Tanya, I was resisting it because I was too self-consumed, and I'm usually not, but I was like, save my children, single mom, I've got to survive, But when this mother, this aunt actually of 2 children that were being chased through the woods by a couple bad cops and had beat them almost to death. One was too afraid to go to the hospital, and they happened to be black boys, black young men. She was crying. She was scared. And I said, Tanya, pull up your boots. You're an advocate. You know that. Pull up your boots, get beyond yourself, and get to work. That was what turned things around for me, where I took myself out of the equation, which I pretty much still have. and started doing victim of the week and doing radio shows and writing about them.
So we have a closed panel tonight. I've invited one person because he's a lot similar and passionate as you are, and I'm going to bring him up. Bird, how are you, Liberty Bird?
I'm doing great, Sancho. How are you?
So Bird has experienced something similar in Colorado with the system during his his false arrest that he had. So I'm going to allow Bird to jump in with some questions every now and then, because he is an advocate / cop watcher. He's a big fan of the Second Amendment, First Amendment, all the amendments. He's a big fan of. So yeah, I'll give him a chance to kind of like jump in every now and then with a question. So are you able to kind of walk us through your first bad experience with the police in Oklahoma?
Well, there was no bad experiences with me. Well, yes, there was. What am I thinking? Okay, sure, I will. My first bad experience with the police in Oklahoma was actually going to them to investigate the corruption that was happening in the court. And from the prosecutor to the police, to the Attorney General's office, we asked the judge. We called the judge and asked about it. Well, the judge was part of the malfeasance. So, and it just shoved it aside. And I could show them everything that it took, including perjury on the judge's part, including tampering, proving the old docket and the document that was tampered with. Started sharing that information, and it didn't seem to matter. And I wouldn't get any answers, or I would get very short replies, and then no facts and findings of law, in the perspective of from a prosecutor. They wouldn't talk any further and would hang up on me. And the same with the police. And this is not a fluke. That's the thing. When you find out it's not a fluke, when it's common, when we all can tell each other stories, right, Liberty? When we can all tell, yeah, there you go, I saw that. When we can all tell each other stories, other than it's just happening to you or them or them or them. It's like, let me guess. I can do that with family court. I can do that with wrongful convictions. I can do that with CPS. You can too. You've interviewed enough. You've seen it enough. that it's the same old story. So what do we do about it? Well, we're doing it now. And we also need to get others to speak up, which a lot more are, rather than just anonymously. But still, the majority is anonymously, but we need people to get gritty, get in the trenches and be willing to get their names out there, kind of like, these people that are coming forward with the affidavits and speaking on behalf regarding the election. But I'll say alleged fraud, so and I can't judge those that don't because they're afraid that their kids are going to get murdered or that they're going to get murdered. So it's a tough balance. We just need to push those that can.
What was the one truth bomb that you uncovered has an advocate that blew your mind away that everyone should hear?
Oh, the truth bomb?
I got one when you're done.
Yeah, the truth bomb is when where do I begin? I should share with you my complaints. What was the one truth bomb? It doesn't stop. It's just, nothing surprises me anymore. But, I could pull notary fraud. How about that to begin with? For notary fraud from, how about there's not even any jurisdiction, subject matter jurisdiction. And the court is saying, yes, there is, but there's literally none. And when you can prove exactly the opposite and the judge uses a storage receipt and that is claimed to be subject matter jurisdiction when it isn't. A storage receipt is subject matter jurisdiction over a marriage certificate, over a home, over a driver's license, over bank accounts, over, you know what I mean? How's that? That's just one. You know what I'm saying? That as far as a truth bomb goes, there's no stopping them. There's no stopping them. And that's learning the hard way that you need to really pay attention to our Constitution. And that's the trump card for everything, is I don't give a crap what your rules and laws say, because that's a perversion of our Constitution.
It is, specifically the Eighth Amendment, right? The excessive bail that shouldn't be required, or excessive fines. But most importantly, in my experience, right, the cruel and or unusual punishments inflicted. Now think about this. This is my biggest truth bomb of what I've seen in my exposure, is there's no oversight. If I'm placed down, face down, and piss and pubes in a cell that hasn't been cleaned, even though there's these COVID policies that are supposed to be in effect that they're not adhering to, they not only show a lack of transparency in the process, but there is no comply now, complain later, because there's no one to comply to. I reached out to the health department because I figured that would be the #1 place I could take a complaint about inhumane conditions. We're talking about things that the Geneva Convention don't allow in the time of war. Right? But yet we find it okay to do it right here to everyday citizens before they're proven guilty. Now, that being said, if the health department has no oversight, and then it goes all the way up to the attorney general, who then just ignores it, where the fuck is the comply now, complain later? Where's the complaint? I don't even have a place to issue a complaint to.
Yeah, so we're talking truth bombs in the prison system and the wrongful convictions and the conditions. I'm all over that with you. Oh boy, the beatings, the beatings. I mean, what you just said. I've got photographs. I've got photographs of the warden laughing about a dead body. Next time, don't let it get stiff. Okay, I've got a video of that. Of a whistle. He wished he was a whistleblower. The thing is, he quit first. He quit and then he released these. He didn't know what a real whistleblower was. So then he winds up getting arrested and having to serve a little bit of time, but he's okay. So this was a corrections officer that was like blown away by it, we've got people coming out firsthand that were corrections officers saying things, only a couple that are willing to give their names. And then, I get pictures and I contact every day from people inside. Okay. And sure, is that illegal? Yeah, but guess what's illegal? What's illegal is the fact that the majority of the contraband is coming from the cell phones is coming from the corrections officers to begin with, that the drug running, it's going through the gangs, the corrections officers. What's illegal is the fact that that they are literally living in, let's look at the 8th and 14th Amendments in inhumane conditions in there. Not only just the conditions, the black mold, the food, literally boxes of food.
Just cell conditions, seriously. So this is the thing. If you're getting processed in a cell that hasn't been adequately cleaned, the toilet's still got, skid marks in it, and, there's feces and or fucking urine on the floor, and you run a hot mop over it.
Coming up from the toilet too.
Absolutely. Well, and then you look at the vent systems, right? Like, look at the vent systems, and if you see, like a quarter inch of fucking cake, fucking mildew, and or a film of whatever residues up there, it poses the problem that you're not breathing in very quality air. You're not in the fucking you're literally setting someone up into a contagious box. Yes.
To die.
Yes.
You're setting somebody up to die. And oh my gosh, and we can go on and on and on about this.
But now where's the 14th Amendment?
Food served on prior trays that weren't washed, and if you want to call them food, again, these boxes are delivered that says not for human consumption. That is their food, not for human consumption. Okay, boxes. I've got pictures of those boxes that are their food in some cases. Okay, we've got the state and the federal, and we run prisons, but also it's not their job to demean you. Okay, the corrections, it's their job primarily. They're treating people that have stolen a vehicle, okay, and they're first time offender or got caught with a bogey, okay, as if they are pedophiles and are like the most scum of the earth ever. Okay, when a lot of these people are actually better quality people than the ones that are abusive, the corrections officers in there. It's just they got caught. Okay, and they were chosen to get caught. And I have a recording. I have a recording of a conversation with the COO of Michael Carpenter of the Oklahoma Department of Corrections, where I'm telling him about this. Okay, I'm like, what are you going to do about that? Because they were imposing, which is supposed to happen. We got to pause on it. I felt really good about that. They're supposed to put GPS systems on inmates starting January 1st. They were going to do it in September, I believe it was, and we got to pause on that. But literally a recording with Mike Carpenter, and I'm saying, well, what about them? What are you doing about them? Completely ignored.
Tanya, would you be interested in watching my experience as I was drug into intake?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean Sancho?
Oh, no.
It's 10 minutes long. I'll be honest with you. It's incredibly excruciating to watch.
Yeah.
However, I think it shows some very interesting aspects. I think the most aspect, and I'll ask Sancho to pause when it gets there so we can rewind it because it's hard to hear. But the most interesting aspect that I found in my intake experience wasn't the injustice that I experienced and or the mistreatment. It was actually the reasoning behind the mistreatment when the sergeant goes over to the arresting officer and asks him if he has any concerns about me. And his response is no, just that he is a constitutionalist.
All right. So I got to stress this now. Viewer discretion is advised. I haven't seen the end of this on purpose because I love this guy and I don't want to see this. Okay. So I may smoke a blunt and not watch, but I will be here listening to everybody. Okay.
Okay.
But this is a great example, and this is a big reason why I had Bert on, was to kind of show you. This is
very rare footage. You're not going to find this kind of footage very often.
Right. But yet it's not a fluke, right? It's not.
It's common practice. Common practice.
It's such a big deal.
Right.
So they lost. Now, mind you, I was able to obtain this video. However, I wasn't able to obtain the rest of the videos from the jail. They lost 21 and a half out of 24 hours of surveillance I asked to be preserved. However, they could not get around releasing this cam, and this is pretty condemning.
Here we go.
Okay.
Now, are those capri shorts?
No, they're khakis.
All right.
You're sweating it up there too, aren't you?
No, they're. I poured a little booze on my shirt earlier that day to kind of piss somebody off, and it worked.
Oh, oh boy.
Now, you had booze on your shirt, but your BAC level was normal?
Yeah, no, I had no alcohol in my system whatsoever. It just happened that a little bit of liquor got spilled on my shirt, and I was treated like a drunkard because of it. However, yeah, just check it out.
Okay. I'm going to lean forward for a second, just for a shawl here.
Let me blow this up for you. How's that, better?
Thank you.
Name and badge number, Sheriff. Before I want to call Justice Smith and asking him for your name and badge number. And if I'm just trying to read it from here, I don't want to talk, bro. I was trying to read that. Please make sure you identify sir as it is per your policy.
So, Bert, how many times in your life have you felt profiled?
I would say probably a half a dozen or more.
Was this one of the incidents that immediately you felt profiled?
Yes, just because of the experience I had while I was being arrested and the fact that they refused to look at any evidence.
This
However,
is recent. You've got a mask.
Yeah, this is very recent, actually. But yeah, so long story short, yes, I felt like I was being profiled. However, it wasn't until they had me up against the wall and cops were asking me medical questions because I refused to answer the nurses' medical questions, and they started, in a sense, torturing me to get those questions answered, that I felt like I was being targeted.
Okay.
Well, you had all that new gangbanging or something, dude? That's kind of the way it looks. I'm not out here to start no ruckus. I'm a peaceful guy. One person should suffice. The only time I'm gonna treat you guys with any type of violence, if you guys violating my rights or
Hand it up.
like Officer Snyder.
Camera operator.
Would you mind holding it for a second? So I can get my mask on.
Yep.
Yeah. Can you let me know what his name and badge number is? I want to make sure I don't miss that, sir. I'll put this on.
Now, don't mind if I talk a little bit while this goes on, but you'll notice in this bottom right corner, there's a trash can. Officer puts his gloves on and then reaches down into the trash. I thought that was pretty funny.
If Officer Rick is on shift or even Officer Nicewater, I would love a conversation with either one of those officers.
The part I really like is you'll see this black officer pull a spit mask out of his pocket.
And I think he just refused to answer any of the nurse's questions, right?
Yeah, he's been mouthing off to that for the whole time.
Being criminalized by a criminal cop.
I mean, he's been verbally uncooperative.
The jail has no policies for being verbally uncooperative, by the way.
Okay. So there's no prongs that define that.
No, what they're trying to say is that I was being aggressive here and that I was being, yeah, that's the narrative they're pushing, but we have all the evidence.
That says you weren't. Is that correct?
That shows that I wasn't, yeah, but they're claiming I am. Now watch, this officer pulls this spit mask out of his pocket. That's real sanitary, right? For COVID purposes, supposedly.
Yeah.
I got some great interviews with him on the phone, actually, after this incident. They can't seem to get their story straight because it's not indicative of the report.
Right. They're trying to create the narrative here.
Yeah.
Okay, you stood right up.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Didn't see it.
Why? That's not very nice. Really? See, that's, no, not very well.
Now you look like a real criminal.
Inhumane and not okay. Definitely, well, before I go anywhere, can you guys please identify everybody?
Okay.
No? No one can identify? Backwards? Yes, yeah? Would you guys please identify, officers? Okay, no identifications.
I got a bad leg here, so you're gonna have to show it, okay? That's gonna be hard. Can I do this all over you? Because I have a lower back injury. Better? So. Excellent. Yes, Jim, I'm working. I'm allergic to iodine, but I do not submit myself to any type of medical testing by government agencies outside of my personal.
Now, keep in mind, I already told the nurse that I did not submit to any of her questions or examines, but they're going to ask me medical questions anyway.
Okay. And you told them that you have a bad leg.
Yep. While they're pushing on it.
And you guys are now just assisting in the process of that violation. That's why I kind of want badge numbers and names.
Have you had anything to drink?
Yes, sir.
Drugs or alcohol?
No, I might smell like a little booze, but I haven't consumed anything.
Nothing?
No, sir. Not these,
Hey, officer, do you have any concerns about this guy?
What'd you ask him?
Okay, outside that, yeah.
Did you hear that? So he just asked him if there was any concerns they had about me, and he said yes or no, just that he's a constitutionalist.
Okay, that's what wow.
Oh, it gets a lot better. The ending's the worst part.
I know it's not your guys' fault that I was violated today and arrested illegally for being on a public road filming just off to the side of a public bus stop. I know it's not your guys' fault. I know the city should use discretion. Sheriff's Department is ultimately respecting the Constitution at this point. Okay, if you guys see me at ranking today, let me know that I'm here.
What's your name?
My name? Yeah. My name's Rob.
Yeah, that's fun shit right there, man.
What
Look at him.
Can you help out? What is this? Some of this dialogue? I can't hear it all.
You guys got search on your foot, so it's.
It's hard to say. Mostly they're asking me medical questions while they're prodding on my medical injuries right now.
Okay.
That doesn't feel good on my back. Yeah, just pull it off, man, as quick as possible. It's way better than, I put my foot down whenever you're ready.
Have you ever had seizures?
Ma'am, I'm not answering your medical questions. You're not my doctor.
We want to do the same thing with the other one, right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that one hurts a little more. It's like an injury, but it's okay. I get it, guys. Now, all this video footage is going to be available through chloroform, right? Yes, sir? I would like a yes answer to that. No one's going to answer that question?
Good. Where we going?
Okay. Well, I will need I need a core request sheet while I'm in waiting, if you guys don't mind.
Or do you do the search?
Yep. we're
Yeah.
good.
Can I get a core request while I wait?
Not this moment.
When will I be able to obtain a core request for this video footage?
I'm imagining you just pause it for a reason, Sancho.
I wonder if it's buffering.
No, I'm on mute like an unprofessional fuck. Sorry. So you're barefoot right now walking through the jails, correct?
Yeah. They just stripped down, took off my socks, took off my shoes, left me barefoot to walk across the floor during the COVID policies. You can see there's 3 officers right now that are following me in gowns, a sergeant behind him. They just got done prodding me on a wall for all the medical examination questions that they wanted me to answer out of the nurse or for the nurse. She sat back and took notes as she shouldn't have, even after I told her I was refusing her medical assistance. And she was making officer decisions on how I was processed while they were performing the duties of her job. And what's even funnier is what happens when we get to the cell that was not even cleaned. And my understanding from the video footage I've reviewed was not cleaned within at least 12 hours prior to my arrival.
So here's what I do, Tanya, whenever I see something like this. I always ask the question, is this legal? What we're looking at right now, Tanya, with him walking through barefoot, is it legal, or there should be some protection for his feet? Because there's so many diseases and germs you can get by doing this. Is this legal, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but in studying constitutional and the rights of somebody who's taken into custody, of course, there are different rights for those that are taken into custody, correct? But it still affords you the rights to be treated fair and humane. Some people leave too much of that up to interpretation, but if you really dig into those rights, you're going to see, especially given the time that we are in now with the COVID and the concerns about the contaminants that are being passed, that in my opinion would absolutely be a breach of your rights.
All right, let's go.
Try to listen carefully here.
Oh, here's the bad part.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna do my left leg first because my right's got. That's fine. All right.
Gotcha.
All right, sir. You guys were waiting.
Are you in the bathroom there?
No, that's the cell.
Jeez.
It has a toilet there, but yeah, that's my
Okay.
cell.
Right. Okay.
Give us
Yeah.
those shorts.
I mean, you're gonna still mind? Am I gonna run around my underwear naked?
No, we're gonna give you some answers, but would you willingly give us your shorts? We don't take them.
Well, I'm gonna say if it's a lawful order, I will give up my shorts. If it's not a lawful order, and
It is a lawful.
are you sure about
I just
that?
wanna make
You
sure
have-
you're safe.
You have to take away my shorts. Okay, and that's a lawful order. Are you sure?
Was that a lawful order?
No, it actually wasn't.
It
It was a policy.
Okay.
Either a yes or no answer.
Well, sir,
So it's
Yeah.
a policy.
Policy is a big difference.
Yeah, so it was a
Policy
policy
doesn't
that they
make it
don't
right.
allow. It's a policy that they don't supposedly allow people in shorts, and so therefore they wanted to take my shorts because their policy says that I can't have shorts. There's no law saying that they have the right to take my shorts from me. I've reviewed it.
Because let me ask you, have you even been in front of a judge at this point?
No, I just got arrested for filming on a public road that they illegally privatized. And because I told the officer no, they told me I was resisting arrest, and this is what's led up to this. Now, what's really sad is you'll see the black officer here. He'll go back at one point here soon to retrieve my COVID mask. While he's doing that, I'm complaining about a big old pile of pubic hair I see in my face. As soon as he removes the mask, same time you see him stepping on another pile of pubic hair as it skirts under his foot and rolls up like a fucking clump of wool. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, go ahead and
So,
just.
hold on.
And mind you, he stripped me down, and then my fucking raw pecker was exposed to all of this piss and fucking pubes that was on the floor, where I actually got a little livid. But you'll hear me talking about all this as it happens.
Not that I'm stating the reason why you got arrested wasn't a big deal. You know, it was unlawful arrest.
It could have been murder, and I still shouldn't have been processed this way.
But Tanya,
Correct.
Well, that's my question to you, Tanya.
Yeah.
Before knowing what he got arrested for, did you think it was something legit serious by the way he was being treated?
Well, it certainly would appear to be that he is a very violent person, given that there are 3 officers there. You know, it looks as though you are a major threat to society physically. It looks like
it does.
It really does by the way that you're being treated.
That's the crazy part about
and I
it.
can understand them doing the safeguards, you know, because they don't know who they're dealing with. Maybe, you know, at this point, I can understand it to a degree. But
Well, I mean, no, they know what my charges are, right? They're processing me, so they're aware.
And at this point, but do they know if you have a violent background, a criminal background? I don't know. So I'm playing both sides here right now. But the fact is, they've already violated your rights numerous times, and they're perfectly okay with it. Policy does not mean it's legal. It's just, let's write a new
Correct.
policy today.
Correct.
Let's amputate his knee just to teach him a lesson. Does that
Well, let's talk about
mean
policy.
it's legal? No.
Yeah, let's talk about policy though. So their policy is that by the COVID guidelines, they're supposed to be cleaning these cells out with hand sanitizers, or sorry, not hand sanitizers, but sanitizers.
Yes.
They're supposed to be cleaning the toilets. They're supposed to be cleaning the vents. These vents under their COVID policies are supposed to have their own airflow, so it's not pushing into the airflow of other cells, which is not the case. And like I said, like if you look at the cell conditions, it's absolutely ridiculous. But this is where we go from the violations, in my opinion, from the 14th Amendment, right, where I was up on the wall and I wasn't being processed equally. But now we're starting to get into right here, right now, we're getting into the massive violation of the 8th Amendment. And
You want a yes or no answer? Are you going to give it to us or not?
Sir, you can.
If not, I'll just take it from you now.
You can say, go ahead, take my first, go ahead. Someone support you. Yeah, you guys can have to take.
Oh, no.
Steal my clothes.
I haven't seen this part. Are you going to show your ass?
My penis is now touching the 30th floor, and that's not really cool. I hope you guys will be saying about it first.
Okay. Go ahead.
Can you hold my boxers?
now you can't tell just yet, but my boxers are completely down my thighs on the front.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
You'll see in a minute when I get up, but
Oh, wait.
Okay, well, I appreciate your courtesy and professionalism. Will anyone please identify for your,
I love you like a brother, but I don't want to see your dick.
you won't. You
Okay.
won't.
It's YouTube, please.
No reason to talk on. No reason to step on my right leg where I have injuries when I'm not resisting, gentlemen.
Listen, and this is what they're doing, knowing there is a camera. Just think about that. They know there's a camera.
Yeah.
This is scratching the surface. Wait till the curtain really opens up and you see what happens when they don't know there's a camera.
Now here comes the pubes. Here comes the pubes that you'll see underneath this officer's foot here in a second. Like, there he goes. Bam, he stepped on it.
Oh,
Watch when he lifts his foot, you'll see it again.
Thank you for that.
oh,
Oh.
Now watch what happens. See, watch me get up. Look how far down my pants are.
Oh, just saw Bird's ass. Way to go, Bird.
I know. It's kind of like I said, it's hard to see.
You
But
promised me.
now, mind you, now when I talked to, so I complied now, okay, and I went to complain later. Okay, health department says we don't give a fuck. I tried to talk to the corporal there at the jail. He refused to give me the information for their quality control or assurance dude. You know what I mean? I had to go through other officers that I knew from the other side of the jail that I have good relationships with in order to obtain that information. I tried to contact Justin Smith, the sheriff, about it because he controls both sides of the jail and the enforcement side, and he refused to address it. So this is the problem, is that if they all look at it and they refuse to see any wrongdoing, right? And then when I did talk to the quality guy or whatever the fuck he is, right? He informed me that he didn't see anything wrong and he couldn't tell that my pants were pulled down far enough to have any issue. And I'm like, did you watch the video? Did you see the video? Because you see the pubes on the floor, dude. You know what I mean? You can't deny it. As soon as I said that, dude, he cut off communication, refused to answer any more emails. Now, this is why I'm waiting right now to finish up whatever I got to finish up, but we will be proceeding with whatever lawsuits we can file. And right now we have the records request, but next is going to be the unsanitary conditions and the experience of the violation of my HIPAA rights, the violations to my 8th Amendment, my 14th Amendment, in the process of what I experienced there.
so, okay. Right. So this is true. Now, if you can find others that have experienced the same thing in there, that would behoove you to do that and to engage in a potential class action suit. And see, this is where I've been going with all these affidavits that I've been collecting, or is, to be able to share these behaviors that are, again, they're not flukes, because you won't find people backing you for the most part for an individual infraction, but when you've got other people that are saying that happened to me, that happened to me. It's a small world out there. Once you start going forward with these kinds of claims, it really is. Other people will start to say things, and then you're going to find out that there's droves of people who likely have been put in the same situation, but they just don't understand their rights, or maybe they do, and they just think they're the only ones.
That's it.
To challenge I'm looking right now at jailhouselaw.org. I have a few different sources that I'd like to look at because, so to challenge prison conditions, using the Eighth Amendment, you must meet both the objective and the subjective requirements. Okay. And they cite a couple cases here. Again, sometimes those citations are great, but guess what? This has been a big beef of mine. When a precedent, when a decision has come down that is now considered a precedent, what if that's based on violations of your constitutional rights? Suddenly that citation really sucks. You know what I mean? And that's them making their own laws and then using these citations in a court, right? Because I'm seeing Farmer versus Brennan, Wilson versus Sater. I think it's really important to find the constitutional laws, our constitutional rights, our own rights that will override any of these creepy or non-creepy precedents that might be made. So if you use a precedent that was made, or if you use a case that was made that made history and is great for everybody, I've seen some great ones, okay? But you cannot use that as your sole citation. You always have to make sure that you're bringing, in my opinion, your constitutional rights, exactly what was violated, and find other cases where that constitutional right has won. Okay, and exactly who did it and how they did it. You can't just say my constitutional rights were violated. You need to come forward and be specific, and I'm sure you're doing that.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think we can take a look at it, right? So we can actually say that my 14th Amendment was absolutely violated in the process. The fact that I refused medical treatment decided to determine how I was processed, and that's the officer's job, right? And the officers in turn did the questioning for the medical exam, which is her job. So you can see that obviously they violated the 14th. And then when they put me down in piss and pubes and stripped my shorts off to where my raw manhood was exposed to a dirty floor, that is where the violation of the 8th Amendment came into. Now we just have to pin the names to those who were in the cell. These are all things that it's very interesting, because I've actually asked for identifications for all these officers. We've actually retrieved some great interviews on phone. Maybe I'll share those with you next time we talk.
Okay.
But I really find it interesting that I still have not gotten a roster of who was involved. I have signatures on paperwork on who signed off on things, but they will not identify those officers, and they refuse to identify the nurse. That's my biggest issue, right? Is now we're still breaking policies. We're breaking COVID policies. We're breaking internal identification policies.
Right.
We're breaking constitutional rights in the process. And honestly, you could probably start looking at other violations outside of the 14th and the 8th Amendment. I just think those are the most obvious.
Yeah.
So
well, first of all, it started happening before you were even, it happened. You were wrongfully charged to begin with, and the thing is, you're just. I forgot what I was going to say. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was feeling bad about interrupting you, Sancho.
I was going to ask, what percentage do you believe in Oklahoma and in Colorado? I want both of your opinion. I think a big challenge in advocacy is education. How educated, what percentage of people are educated in Oklahoma and in Colorado after you, Bird, about the Constitution and their rights?
Minimal, very minimal. I would say, and if you're including the lawmakers themselves, very, very minimally, because they don't even know what a remonstrance is, and a remonstrance is a right. And I didn't know what a remonstrance is either, but it acts better as your actual petition to go forward in front of the courts. I would say maybe 15, 20%. And then, ask me who cares about their rights. I mean, it's those that are victimized that start to learn more about the rights. But then you find out who actually cares about their rights. We're so immersed in politics that there used to be a time when lawyers weren't legislators. It was not allowed. Okay. So we've got to get rid of the bar. We've got to get rid of career politicians. Look, I was on the phone with the Attorney General's office, a grand jury investigator, and I was discussing the issues with the grand jury investigator. I have this on a recording too. And, he was very, very candid, saying, everybody knows that's just how it is. And it doesn't, he said, if I had a magic wand, I could change everything, but nobody's going to do anything about it. And here I am asking him to investigate some horrific abuses, right? So he gave me the name of some, and it's just like, Tanya, this is just how it is. You know his name? I've got the full conversation. That one I have not released yet. And then he referred me to somebody that he said that he knows or knew at the ODOC, Oklahoma Department of Corrections. And I went to look up this guy, and I can't find him anywhere. I can't find a history of him, and I can't find him there now. So I've got to get back to this the guy at the Attorney General's office. It's funny when they think you've gone away and you really haven't.
Bird, what percentage in Colorado?
It's like a world of their own. And
right.
It doesn't it's not okay.
Right.
Well, I mean, I guess it really depends, Sancho, how many fifth graders are still being taught the Constitution? At this point in time, I don't think, I can have conversations with my old man who was a 14-year Army veteran and, served the Constitution. And when I have conversations with him about the Constitution and I ask him, well, what's the point of the 9th Amendment, if we're going to violate all the other ones, and he's like, well, what are you talking about? And I'm trying to explain to him that, we have certain rights and that they're not to be construed to deny or disparage others. And he didn't even understand that existed, and I'm on some, how did you swear to uphold an oath to something? And mind you, like, thank you for his service, I respect him for it because it did protect it to some degree. But at the same time, if they don't even know what they're swearing an oath to, you know what I mean? And yet they're saying
lawyers,
that they represent it.
I know lawyers that then they're told after they graduate, okay, throw away everything that you've learned. Throw away everything you've learned in law school.
Well, and that's the bar, though, right? So because of the bar, we have a situation now where the First Amendment does not apply in the courtroom. I'm sorry, but if the First Amendment doesn't apply in the courtroom, that means that the 14th Amendment doesn't apply in the courtroom. Well, you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I mean, this is just it. This is so this is the problem. When you have like a lawyer out there that's claiming things and they're just trying, a prosecutor that is just concerned about winning. And that prosecutor is there not just to win. The prosecutor is there to make sure the application of the law is applied, which means.
Well, actually, so the prosecutor's mission statement actually does not change from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. It does not change state to state. In fact, all of their mission statements across the entire nation specifically say that their mission is to recuse the guilty and protect the innocent. However, if I go in there after being charged with something that's a false crime, I present to them evidence, and then they look at me and tell me, good luck, have a great day, sir. That is not protecting the innocent. Correct.
Because guess what? The false crime was against somebody where that paycheck comes, the judge is paid by the county. The prosecutor is paid by the county. The sheriff's department is paid by the county. You know what I'm saying? They're all getting paid by the same people. Everybody's getting paid by this. There's conflicts of interest. The bar has got to go away. In Oklahoma, the Bar Association has become an arm of the Supreme Court. That's a perversion of the Constitution, yet it's in their Oklahoma Constitution.
Well, and here's a perversion of the Constitution, is that you have constitutional rights that you are allowed to protect with lethal force. However, if you tell a peace officer in the state of Colorado, no, you don't have the right to take away my permission. You don't have the right to arrest me without investigating the situation. You don't have the right to, do this because I'm on a public road, whatever the case might be, okay? And then he chooses to anyway, and you say no, you pull away and or say this is not okay, and then they find out that you're right, that it was unlawful. You are still guilty of resisting, and you will be criminalized and scrutinized up to a year of jail time and $1,000 fine. Congratulations, you are now a criminal, even though you're not. And so what? Now I can't stand up for what's right and say no when I know that I'm standing on a constitutional right. That's where we got to start. We have to be able to draw the line, because it's a flaw.
What are in Oklahoma the top 3 abuse tactics that bother you the most that are commonly used throughout the jail systems?
Throughout the jail systems, not like getting convicted to begin with. Okay, is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, if you want to go with a broad statement, yeah. I mean, if you want to include that in, but
I can start with the question that you just asked. It's will they get punished? Okay, so if an abuse is, they're not allowed to, if they make a complaint or if they complain, that they're punished. That, they're supposed to be able to make a complaint without getting retaliation. So you have people that are afraid to make complaints because they will get retaliated against. And we're not talking about, sometimes it's just like minor retaliations, I guess you would say, like not letting you make calls or, you don't get outside time or whatever. And that's a whole nother
sometimes,
story.
Well, and sometimes they'll process you differently, right? They'll put you in maximum security and up your bail because you piss them off.
This is why people have those phones. I mean, granted, there are people that are running their industries because they got nothing to lose. They're never going to get outside, and they're just running their industries inside. We're talking about the gang members. We're talking about the ones that are like lifers forever, and maybe but if you're not allowed to make a complaint, if you're not, the medical care is another big one. Okay, so if you're not getting the medical care that you need. All right. So that's another one. So complaints, like the suffocation of the ability to make a complaint without getting retaliated against. Okay. So, and the medical care, that's another one. And then I have to say as well, the Pardon and Parole Board is a big issue. And I'm linking that to inside the prisons, because if they don't want you out, they will make up things that say that, you're doing things wrong. So they won't you don't look favorable, even if they go to open your jacket. And that's a whole nother issue in itself. Look, I do believe, that people need to be punished and they need to be reformed. Okay. If things happen, but it should be in line with what's going on. And when you see like a prosecutor was arrested for something or defense attorney was arrested for something, and suddenly they get out and it's not in the news anymore, right? And they're living their lives free. But yet somebody else could have a bogey and they're in there for 15 years. Like I said, steal a car, 24, 25 years, first time offenders, nonviolent. Is this what we want to pay for? Can we help people, have a second chance? Can we provide a forum of reform for them to go out and sure, be strict, I mean, as far as the bogey goes, are you kidding me?
Right.
Well, we need to prioritize at this point, don't we? I mean, so this is the thing. You can take a non-violent offender. Sometimes we'll just take the drug user, right?
Right.
So he has no victim other than himself. And he winds up with a 5-year stint, okay? And then we let someone that molests multiple children. Yeah, totally. But then you take someone that has molested multiple children, and you give them an ankle bracelet, and you put them in a fucking home for 2 weeks and then allow me to get a fucking apartment 2 blocks away from a fucking elementary school.
There
Makes
are
no
judges
sense
in
to me.
Oklahoma that give these kids to their pedophiles. I know one who's supposedly set a precedent, but it's still happening, where the child was given to the father who moved to California, who is a pedophile who has to sign the registry, and it was against his first daughter, and that's because the mother had a speech impediment. You know what I mean? But this is like, it's crazy world. It's so unbelievable. This is just it. Now, people that are listening to this kind of thing for the first time, they go, no way, that can't happen. That's illegal. How can that happen? No, there's more of the story. Well, what if there isn't? What if that really did happen?
Well, they can't believe this.
It really does happen. It actually does.
If they can't believe this, they're not going to start believing stories about how a high percentage of kids in CPS wind up being sex trafficked.
Yes, the bonuses that are paid to take away kids from good parents.
From good parents, and that's the problem,
parents.
Right?
Where are we, Tanya? Where are we, Tanya, with the wrongful incarceration percentage rate? Do you know what the percentage is per year or per couple years as far as individuals that have been deemed wrongly incarcerated?
At the top of my head, no, but I mean, the Innocence Project is very, very busy, and we're talking in Oklahoma. We have more women are incarcerated more than anywhere in the world. Okay, per capita, and so have in general. I think Louisiana took over for a little bit, but I think we're back in number one. And I got news. This is not because it's such a really bad. There's that many bad people. It's because this is all about the dollar. Look, this grand jury investigator said that the Department of Corruption, I call it, they're dirt poor. They're dirt poor. So why are they dirt poor? Where's the transparency? Where's all the money going? You know what I mean? Why? There's no. The issue is that also they don't train the corrections officers. They pay them next to nothing. So in order for them to survive, they either get involved with the contraband and making deals and the abuses and the malfeasance, or they don't. They go out. They leave, and then that's when we hear from them. But there's so many in Oklahoma that they just refuse to retry. And it's like, if there's new evidence, with DNAs and whatnot, why aren't you willing to retry it? And then you've got on the Pardon and Parole Board, okay, you've got a guy who put a lot of these people away, who refuses to even vote yes. And this guy is corrupt in himself. His name was Judge McCall. Okay, he's on the Pardon and Parole Board, and he's still taking a pension, and he's not supposed to take a pension from the state while he's on the Pardon and Parole Board. But they do not adhere to those rules, even when they're called out, when they ask him to step down. He has publicly said, "I will always vote no for any violent offender," and yet the Pardon and Parole Board does look at violent offenders situations, okay? And some deserve it to be pardoned and some don't, okay? But they won't. But if he's automatically no, and then we've got the ones that are wrongfully convicted, and you can see like every reason why it's beyond a preponderance of a doubt that this person was wrongfully convicted, and they didn't allow it, or they told the jury the wrong thing, right? Like with the Holtz Clause case. And so then you've got those that aren't even guilty, and it's a perpetual septic system there. That state needs a big colonic. It's horrifying. It's absolutely horrifying.
Let's go over a story from a year ago. There's a pair of was Free Tuesday. This is about a year ago. 30 years in prison for the murder a judge said he did not commit. The second member of his family to have wrongly convicted, Corey Alston, 48, walked out of a Tulsa court of Freeman 28 years after he was convicted of shooting James Lane during a robbery in 1990. The Judge Sharon Holmes found this case was marred by a fundamental miscarriage of justice, according to the people who were in the courtroom and local reports. His younger brother, Scott, actually had a murder conviction, unrelated case, overturned in 2016. 28 years lost over a crime that he never committed. Thoughts?
Okay, my thoughts on this are, okay, is it an error or is it malfeasance? And if it's an error, it's just so sad. I have seen more and more, talk to more and more people that have gone in there into prison as a gang member, okay, or as a thug, you know what I mean, and have grown up in prison, and they're ready to become members of society. Now, as far as this wrongful conviction goes, there should be no immunity. It says so in our Constitution, okay? So if somebody's acting under the color of law and they're purposefully not allowing due process to take place, we need to hold them accountable. And why aren't they being held accountable? Because there's so many bad guys and girls that are playing politics. That's why. So we need to reverse that. We need to get the lawyers out of politics. You know, we need to revert to the constitutional rights, that policies are written without perverting that. No judge should have immunity if there is purposeful malfeasance. If there's an error, that's another thing. Same thing as anybody else involved in the case.
Well, look at the suppression of evidence too. I mean,
Yes.
We're supposed to have a transparent system, you know, and I know I can't speak for everybody's situation, but you know, in my situation, if you got 21 and a half hours out of 24 of surveillance going missing, you ultimately also have a situation where for your case, there's some type of review between the college and the fucking police department itself, and then they refuse to divulge any information around their findings when they're in your favor, right? Mm-hmm. But they want to claim, you know, attorney-client privileges and then mask the fucking wrongdoing. If they're willing to do that over something as simple as a resisting arrest and or trespassing that never existed, what would they do around something like murder? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Would they literally just leave you out to hang to dry because they thought that you were the best fucking target to take the fall for it, and then let the fucking real killer go free?
Yes, they do. No conscience. We need integrity oversight committees. And they work well. They are in some states, and they are working well. There's a woman by the name of Melissa Hurry. I've had her on my show several times, and she's become quite the expert in integrity integrity units, committees in various states. They don't work well in some, but it depends on how they're put together. And you know, it's the oversight committees. No lawyers. You know, listen, you go to an Oklahoma court, and you go back in the judges' quarters. I've seen this. I've been there, okay, and I was kicked out too, even though I had just as much a right to be there as any of the other lawyers that were there, okay? But I'm seeing people check, they're going in the files and they're not even checking them in and out. You're supposed to. There's a thing to do to check in and out. I see them walking in and out of judges' quarters, okay? I mean, I've seen this. I've seen this with my own eyes. I have seen just so many violations, ex parte meetings, which an ex parte meeting is usually not is not legal unless it's for like violence, domestic violence, or something like that, right? But when you've got a judge and a lawyer going in and talking about your case, okay, those are ex parte meetings. These are things that everybody needs to be privy of. Okay.
Well, and that's even down to the civil restraining order, right? So you can go in and get a civil restraining order against me, and I'm not there. to present any type of evidence, and then all of a sudden I have to fight a civil restraining order with real money just to preserve myself. And of course,
that's
who wins
wrong.
there?
That's wrong. And see, that is wrong. I mean, that's what a prosecutor is supposed to be there for, right? So you've been wronged. So they won't go after the people that need to be gone after. Look, in my case, once I smartened up, I started bringing in a recorder, even though supposedly it's not allowed. And you know what? I compared those transcripts. God so willing, I finally scratched out the money for the transcripts. That's another problem. Okay. I brought it, I looked at the transcripts and I listened to my recording. And guess what's different? It's different. It's different. Where it matters.
Yep. I experienced that also.
And so you can't put anything past these people that are willing to do this. It's and you think, well, why? What's at stake? What's at stake? Well, you got a job to do. You've got the people higher up that, you've got to really realize what they're doing. As soon as somebody sees something going on or they benefited from something they're not going to, then, everybody starts to have each other's backs, right? And something very important to know, that the clerk at the court, it's always important to make that clerk your best friend. If hopefully that person is not corrupt, but a lot of them are, okay? But the clerk is a huge decision maker based on what goes in front of a judge. People don't realize that. Kind of like when you're going for surgery and the respiratory therapist that takes you this close to being dead, to as you go under and brings you back out. It's like, oh, but I want to talk to my doctor. Well, that respiratory therapist is pretty important too. That clerk is very important to get on the right side of, if you can. For whatever that's worth.
Yeah, no, I think you're right about that. Well, it's not just that, but they have all the information, right? Like why bite the hand that can provide you with the very details that you need in order to file the right motion, in order to file the right affidavit or what the case might be. And not just that, but if you needed the judge's number straight to the judge's quarters, you can obtain that through your court clerk.
And as well, I mean, I believe, and it was one of the things that I slipped in, or not slipped in, that one of my approaches was also that, you can ask, the court clerk is the one that is supposed to look and see if there truly is a conflict of interest, so they can deem there to be a conflict of interest on their own, I believe. And a lot of them won't do it. They'll just send it into the judge, and the judge asks you to do something in camera, and they'll keep throwing things back to you. But it's really important to just dig deep and do a ton of research, but bring forward the constitutional violations first and foremost, and what's wrong with being a constitutionalist?
Right. That's a great question. I mean, I think that's the key thing where I think that shows open bias, right? We see that in a lot of different departments.
Yeah.
To kind of hit on that thing about the county clerk, though, or the court clerk, here's an instance for you. I went in to obtain records, not for myself, but for someone else for a story I was writing. When I went in, records told me that the district attorney's office may have some records that were still public that they didn't have downstairs. So I went up and I asked for them. Next thing you know, 2 officers show up to shake me down and attempt to arrest me for being the person who I was asking for records for, because they had a bench warrant. Now, I kind of felt like that was a problem, right? And I took it to the management there at the district attorney's office and had a conversation with them. He told me that there's no one to complain to outside of him, and pretty much he wasn't going to give me any written documents to document the complaint. Didn't give me a way to file the complaint, so I called the clerk of the clerk, who referred me to a complaint organization for lawyers, as that would be my next step. So where the DA lied to me and told me there was no above and beyond, the court of the clerk was happy to provide me with that information.
Yeah. Yeah, and get as many things in writing or recorded as you can, because otherwise it's hearsay. You know, they rely on that so much. I mean, what's interesting is, you know, it's funny because in the past I've always, you know, been frustrated if, you know, had a lawyer for one reason or another, nothing like any of this stuff in the way past, right? Okay. And it's like, oh, I wish they would just call me back, right? But guess what? You're going to find the creepy ones. They don't email you. They will call you back. They will call you back because they don't want it to put certain things in writing, right? But record those calls. Record those calls if you can legally.
Mhm.
You know, it's listen, I've talked to lawyers and they've said, you know, call the FBI, call this, call that. You know, no one's going to take this case. You will not find in Oklahoma, you will not find, and I'm coming down a little bit hard on the attorneys in Oklahoma that claim to be so clean, okay? You will not find one attorney in Oklahoma that will go against another attorney or, you know, that will actually argue that another attorney had malfeasance, okay, should be, you know, like file a case against another attorney, okay? You won't find one that'll do that, or against a judge, okay? And so it's like, okay, so come on, you guys that claim that you're all out for the victim, okay? And again, they're in a tough spot because they get blacklisted. Suddenly they don't have a license. I get it, but they need to form a coalition to stop this, all right? But then the attorneys suddenly, they have got endless clients because there are people that are wrongfully convicted that shouldn't be. When the prosecutor did things maliciously and didn't allow due process to take place, when the judge did, or when another attorney did. So, you know, but all of a sudden there's an influx, a constant influx of, okay, we're going, you know, this is for the Pardon Parole Board, this is to this is to that, this is it. Well, they shouldn't have been in there to begin with if you did your damn job. You know what I'm saying? So I'm starting to get really upset with the attorneys that, you know, are you know, only a few of them, you know, supposedly, that are like really good attorneys that, you know, you can go to get your sentence shortened. Well, when they were fighting for you to begin with, they should have not allowed certain things to happen. So you should have never been in jail to begin with, or in prison to begin with. And so that's a big issue too. It's like, well, what is it? The lesser of two evils? These people need to make, they need to come together with coalitions. We need to get affidavits. We need to get whistleblowers involved. And I've been talking about that a lot. I want to hear from you if you're a corrections officer and you know this is going on. I want to hear from you if you're a defense attorney and you know this is going on. There are whistleblower protections. I spoke at the Whistleblower Summit. There's an annual Whistleblower Summit in Washington, D.C. This past year, it was you know, virtual, but that's a huge resource right there, where they have a lot of panels, various, you know, people that you know, are in it or have won it. Look, Linda Tripp was at the one a few years ago, and her attorneys that were there. You remember who Linda Tripp was? You have media people that go there, and they'll speak as well. And they'll tell you the best way to get things out on the media, how to do that, what you need to do to make your chances better for big media. That whistleblower forum in DC, it's free to go to. It's free to attend.
So how successful have you been with getting COs to kind of cross over and be an informant to you?
I'm sorry?
How successful have you been getting like a CO or someone to become a whistleblower to you?
I've only heard from one that is still a CEO, and mostly I have heard from others that quit and are telling the stories. Yeah, and they're being abused. They're being harassed.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the thumb is on them to make sure that they don't tell the stories.
Well, something I found to be really helpful. some I found would be really helpful in my situation because there's not a lot of whistleblowers, right? But being fortunate enough to live in a one-party state where I can make telephone calls and record them,
Right.
when I make those calls, they don't suspect that they're being interrogated and/or that I'm digging for certain information, but they're always happy to snitch themselves and their departments out. I've seen it time and time again, and this starts from as low as the piss on soldier that's processing you, all the way up to his captain. And so if you start getting those involved and you start documenting that evidence, it'll give you some ground to stand on later. So I really recommend that you check into your two-party versus one-party laws, but if you have the ability,
you can in Oklahoma too.
Absolutely. So I've had a lot of success there. In fact, we even seen a major get demoted back down to a captain. We've seen a lot of departments ultimately contradict themselves for their reasonings behind taking certain actions. And all that stuff comes into play when it comes to the civil suits, right? So that's all evidence that could be used.
Tanya, you've been very charitable with your time. I know we said an hour, 45 minutes. So I'm going to let you wrap up on what you were going to say, and then I'm going to give you a chance to plug your platforms. Where do we find you? We're obviously going to have you back on real soon. There's so much topics we can kind of break down and discuss. I wanted, because you and I have been talking for a couple of weeks now, I kind of wanted to introduce everyone to you, get a little hello and then start tackling some of the topics. Wrongly incarcerated with the Freedom Project, the Innocence Project. I'm close with that. I definitely want to work with you on that. And I think we can provide the audience something different, something educational that needs to be spread, that needs to be educated. So can you finish what you were just going to say and then proceed to plug your platforms?
Okay. Goodness, I'm trying to think what I was going to say. I'm sorry, I'm just a little bit tired today. What I will just say is that people need to take notes. Okay, they need a diary. When these things are going on, just realize that if you're trying to remember things, it's very different than if you're taking notes and you have a diary. That's much more appreciated if you're in a court that actually cares about this stuff. All right. So that's a huge recommendation, and to others out there that are going through this. As far as the pages to follow, and tonight I'm on air at 8:00 Central. Okay, and that's you can find, and it's not visual, but it's audio. So I'm on Tuesdays and Sundays, sometimes on Thursdays as well. But tonight it's Tanya Talks, where your voice is heard and your story is told. Actually, no, I'm just changing it to open up, including Oklahoma still, but opening up the forum to get other people involved in making phone calls. So you can look on my personal page because it is public, Tanya Hathaway, and I'll post that on my personal page. But also Injustice in Oklahoma Exposed, that is a page. Journeys to Justice is a group, and that's where people are posting their own things as well. Sancho, I'm going to suggest that you post your shows over at Be a Voice Radio Doc. Okay, that's a place where you can actually post your shows. Be a Voice Radio Doc. I'll let you into that. There's a few of us that are administrators on it. For those incarcerated, in Oklahoma, there's another one, Oklahomans Incarcerated, True Stories and How You Get There. And that's a page that I have with somebody else, and we're starting a nonprofit. There's just so much to say. I'm sorry, I'm not putting it out there as eloquently as I would like to, but we've got a lot of work to do, but we're also really getting there. We're getting there, and just got to keep collecting. We're planning on going to DC with a bunch of information in the spring. and we just want people to combine, because there's all these little groups. We need to combine and to come together and so
Strength in numbers. Strength in numbers is always a key. I commend
me
you.
at journeys2justice@gmail.com. Journeys2justice spelled out at gmail.com. I'm not fancy, but being effective is important. Being effective, have some successes, but I really want some big permanent successes and changes, and I think that's what we all want. We're on the same page. Thank you for having me on.
I want to thank Tanya for coming on. Breaking news, Liberty Bird will be on Masshole Report at 7, so everyone please check out Masshole Report. I'm excited for my guy. I'm excited, pulled some strings, got my guy on. It's going to be great. I'm going to have popcorn and everything ready. I want everyone to subscribe to Liberty Bird. I want everyone to follow all the social media pages for Tanya. We will have Tanya on again soon. Tanya, keep up the good fight, and we will be having you on real soon.
Thank you. Night all.